Hi everyone. In this video we're going to take a quick look at making basic graphs in SPSS. Once again, I have the MT cars dataset open and there's a link in the description below if you'd like to download this to follow along. So like several basic things in SPSS, there are going to be multiple options you have for making graphs, and we're going to look at a couple different ways to do this. We're going to start by logically going to graphs, and then under graphs the very first option is chart builder, and generally speaking this is where I'd recommend starting. And it looks a little complicated at first, but if we start down the bottom and look at what's happening, basically we just have a list of the different choices we have for the graphs that we can make. So knowing what type of graph you would be interested in making, you'd find it down here in the list, and depending on what type of graph, there's going to be a variety of different options you have, and most of the time the very first one is going to be sort of the simplest one. So those are the type of ones that we're going to look at for now. So let's say we're going to start by making a histogram, and I'm going to just select the very first one, and to actually make this histogram I'm going to select the sort of template that I want, and again I'm going to do the very first one, the basic one, and then you select the one you want and drag it up to the top. Now in our preview area up here we can see we've got some bars, the start of our histogram. Now the other thing we need to add is what variable we want to use to make this histogram. So our list of variables in the data set will be over here on the left. So let's use miles per gallon. Let's make a histogram for miles per gallon. I can drag that down. I want that on the x-axis, and now I'm going to get a histogram for miles per gallon. Some other things to briefly note here in Chart Builder. There are, going back down here to the bottom half, these different tabs have a bunch of options that you can customize if you want. You don't have to do this most of the time, but there are a bunch of additional options that are available. For example, this last tab, titles and footnotes. If you want to straight away add a title, you can click the titles tab, enable title 1, and now over here on the right, type in your title. So title goes here. Click apply. And now our histogram is going to have a title with it. But again, a lot of these are optional. So let's go ahead and look at what our histogram output gives us. Click OK. Now in the output viewer, there's our histogram. We see it added our title. We have miles per gallon on the x-axis. There's our histogram. Very briefly, if we forgot to add a title and we want to add the title now, or we want to otherwise customize this graph, we can still do that after we've created it by double clicking, and that opens up the chart editor. And there's a bunch of different options for things that you can customize and change and edit here in the chart editor, but that's there's lots of options for that, so all the details for that might be in a future video. For now we're just trying to create the graphs. Alright, so there's our histogram created in Chart Builder. I want to also create a scatter plot in Chart Builder, so I'm going to go back to graphs in Chart Builder, and we still have our histogram on there, but I want to create a scatter plot. So I'm going to go back to the gallery tab down here in the bottom half, and right above histogram is scatter dot. And again, there's lots of options that we can choose from, and we're just going to start with the very first one, which is going to be our basic one. So if we drag that up, now instead of histogram we see the little points here for our scatter plot, and I have miles per gallon on the x-axis, but a scatter plot of course also has to have not only an x-axis variable but also a y-axis variable. So if you have other variables you need to add, you just drag those variables where they need to go, like we did earlier for miles per gallon. So I actually want miles per gallon on the y-axis, so I'm going to drag that to the y-axis, and then I want to see how weight influences miles per gallon. So I'll take weight and drag that to the x-axis, and now we're going to get a scatter plot with those two variables. Once again, you have options here that you can go in and customize if you'd like. But for now, we're going to keep it simple. Click OK, and here will be our scatter plot. There's our scatter plot showing weight in miles per gallon, and we can see, as we would expect, heavier cars tend to have worse miles per gallon. Okay, so that was a very brief look at Chart Builder. If we go back to graphs, the very last option we have is legacy dialogues. This is another option you have for making graphs. And basically, legacy dialogues is just options for one particular graph at a time. Chart Builder had everything all in one place. Legacy dialogues is an alternative you can use if you want to make a pie chart or a bar plot or histogram, whatever. You can also go to legacy dialogues and then select just the graph that you want to make. That is an option. A couple other places that we can go to get graphs that you might not suspect because they're not under graphs. We can also go to Analyze and Descriptive Statistics. And first we'll look at Explore. And Explore is going to give you some very specific graphs. So let's look at miles per gallon. And over here on the right, there's this button for plots. And if we click plots, we can see what plots we're going to get. We're going to get a box plot. And then we also have the option for, under the descriptive area here, we can ask for a stem and leaf plot, or checking that box will also give us a histogram. We have another option here where we can, if we were interested in, ask for a plot to check for normality of this variable. So, since I only want the plots, I'm going to select the Display Plots button because I don't want to look at the descriptive statistics. Clicking OK. And now here's our histogram for miles per gallon. Once again, it looks a lot like the histogram we got from Chart Builder, which is good. And then we also have the stem and leaf plot, and then the box plot. By default, Explorer will give you the stem and leaf plot and then the box plot, but you can also ask for the histogram, the normality plot. There's a few graphs that you can customize and explore, but by default, it's only going to give you a stem and leaf plot and then the box plot. Okay, there's one other place we're going to look at for making basic graphs. It's also under Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and then Frequencies. So frequencies, list of variables on the left. We've been looking at miles per gallon, so I'll send miles per gallon over here to the right. And now we have this charts button over here on the right. And if I click that, it gives me an option. I can select one type of chart to produce. So for miles per gallon, since that's a quantitative variable, histogram would probably be what we want. We wouldn't really be interested in a pie chart for miles per gallon. Maybe if we're using, number of cylinders or engine type, a bar chart or a pie chart might make sense. But here under frequencies, you can select, again, a very basic graph as well under frequencies. So X for histogram, continue, okay, and there's a third time our histogram for miles per gallon. So Chart Builder, again, is what I would generally recommend. It has the most options sort of all in one place, but there are also other places you can go to get several of the basic graphs as well. So that wraps up our quick look at making basic graphs in SPSS. I hope that was helpful. Thanks for watching.